This is one thing that celebrity makeup artists do that most people skip, but it changes everything about the way your skin looks. I am talking about underpainting. I am a professional makeup artist and I test products for a living, and I'm going to be teaching you exactly how to do this technique. I'm going to be breaking it down very simply for you. A lot of celebrity makeup artists use this technique, but that does not mean that you can't also. Not only that, but a celebrity makeup artist that is one of my favorite artists ever just released a new makeup line, and I'm going to be reviewing one of her products today. If you want to learn how to underpaint to achieve a naturally sculpted look without looking like you're wearing a ton of product, keep on watching. Before I get into the technique, I really want to explain to you guys what underpainting is. As a professional makeup artist, I've used this technique many times and I really love it, and I wish people talked about it more. Underpainting is a technique of sort of sculpting your face before even applying foundation. So let's think highlight, contour, even sometimes blush. You're essentially laying down the definition, laying down the structure of your face, and then going on top with foundation to soften all the edges and just melt everything together. So why do makeup artists love to use this technique so much, you might be wondering? This provides really soft dimension. So you know how sometimes you can see people who have an unblended stripe of contour or maybe patchy blush or something like that? This technique really prevents that from happening. As you apply your structure underneath, you even blend it out to make it soft, and then you go on top with another layer of foundation, which just makes it completely undetectable. It melts into your skin. It really just gives you such a soft, perfected look. This technique also really allows you to adjust the intensity of your base. So if you want to go in quite intensely underneath, you can go ahead and do that. You can have very kind of more intense structure underneath and then go in on top with foundation. You can use a sheer layer of foundation. You can use a skin tint. You can go in with a more heavy coverage foundation to kind of diffuse everything underneath. Depending on how you apply your initial layer when you're underpainting and then how you go on top of it with foundation is really going to give you a ton of control in how the final look turns out, whether you want more intensity or less intensity. I also find that this tends to give a more long wearing finish because you're kind of trapping that dimension underneath when you apply foundation on top of it, and it also kind of prevents you from going in with too much product. I find often when I underpaint, I actually end up applying much thinner layers, and so my foundation actually isn't slipping and sliding around so much. And last but not least, makeup artists obviously use this technique because it looks great in person, in photos, editorial, on red carpets, you name it. It gives you this really beautiful natural look without looking overdone, but you can still get a good amount of intensity so that it shows up beautifully in photos. Essentially, this technique gives the face a very sculpted and defined look without visibly wearing a ton of heavy products on the face. If you're wondering if this technique is going to work for you, let me tell you who this technique kind of works best for. If you want a natural skin-like finish that doesn't scream contour and blush, patchiness, you know, the kind of stripes on the face, you might enjoy this technique. Also, if you deal with texture or fine lines, you might really enjoy this technique because you can get away with using actually less product. Traditionally, when we're layering makeup, we can really apply a lot of layers on top of one another, which can actually enhance texture and fine lines and stuff like that. This technique kind of allows you to take a less is more approach if you want to. If you love long wearing makeup, you're gonna like this technique. If you're going to an event that you need your makeup to last a nice long time for, or a wedding or anything like that, you're gonna love this technique. And lastly, I would say if you struggle with controlling the amount of makeup you apply, so let's say maybe you have a heavy hand, you apply a little too much makeup, or maybe you're not getting as intense of a finish as you want, so you can go in with a bit more of an intense underpaint and then control how much intensity you want to show through when you apply your foundation on top. Like I said earlier, this technique really allows you to adjust the desired intensity that you want to get, and I'm going to show you exactly what I mean and exactly how to do this technique in just a second. Essentially, long story short, this technique has been used by makeup artists and actual painters for a very long time, especially those who paint faces. It's basically like applying your sketch underneath, kind of getting all your definition and stuff like that, and then going on top with all of the extra stuff that you want later. This technique has been around forever, but it's recently been popularized by Mary Phillips, a very talented celebrity makeup artist. I love her work. It's very soft, but glamorous. She basically is like the soft glam queen. She works on all your favorite supermodels. I'm basically obsessed. So when I found out that she was releasing a makeup line, I knew I had to try it. I was so flattered when they offered to send me this launch in PR. This is it right here. I'm so excited to show it to you guys. But before I get too into it, this is not sponsored. I did receive this in PR, but I'm going to be giving you my honest thoughts and opinions about this product. This is kind of like teaching you technique, but also testing product in one video. So very exciting. This is what the PR box looks like. This is the product I'm going to be underpainting with today. This comes with a variety of cream shades in there, some for highlight, some for contour, bronzer, you name it. And then we have a nice brush to apply everything with. I'm really hoping this shade works out for me. I'm quite pale, so we'll see. This shade right here is a color corrector. Then we have 2 highlight shades and 2 contour shades. This palette is so gorgeous. I cannot wait to dip into it to see what the formula feels like. So when I underpaint, I actually like to start with contouring and sculpting my face. So I'm gonna dip into this slightly cooler tone right here for my contour. I'm gonna pick it up on the thicker end of the brush. Once that brush is coated evenly, I'm gonna begin to apply this to the face. I'm starting by applying this to the cheekbones, giving my cheekbones some structure. I do wanna cheat this to lift my cheekbones a little bit, so I'm actually going a bit higher than the hollows of my cheeks. I'm going in slightly heavier than I would because I'm going to be blending this out and applying foundation on top. So I actually like to go in with just a little bit more product than normal. This shade here looks a little bit warmer, so I think I'm going to actually use that one on my forehead. I'm going to go over the outside edges of my forehead. This is going to provide warmth and definition to the forehead. It's going to make my forehead look a little bit smaller and also giving my skin a little bit of a sun-kissed effect. Dipping into that first color we applied to our cheekbones, I'm going to use that to sculpt my nose a little bit and also my jawline slightly. I've also been seeing a chin contour hack go around, so I'm going to actually apply a little bit on my chin too. Usually you just apply it a little like this to make your chin look pointier. I don't want to go in too crazy. Okay, you guys, I know this looks crazy right now, but trust the process. You need to trust the process when we're underpainting. I'm going to go in with highlight now. Me personally, I'm not the biggest color corrector girl, so I think I'm going to skip using this today, but I might test it out later. I'm gonna go in with the lighter highlight shade just because I think that is gonna work better with my skin tone. I'm picking that up on the smaller end of the brush and I'm beginning to apply that where I need highlight. So I'm starting with under my eyes to brighten that area. I'm also gonna give a little bit of lift on my outer corner here, and I'm just lifting slightly right here. I have a little blemish, so I'm gonna go ahead and apply some of this right on top, mainly to see how well this actually covers. I'm going to apply this highlighter in the center of my forehead as well. This is also going to aid with the illusion of a smaller, more sculpted forehead. I'm also just going to drag that down the bridge of my nose and of course in the center of my chin for a little bit of highlight there. And I'm also going to apply a little bit of that right under my contour. This is going to give a bit more of a sculpted look to the face. And then last but not least, I'm going to actually apply a little bit around my mouth as well. Okay, so I'm just going to show you guys what this is looking like before I blend it out so you can see my placement. Obviously, this looks crazy right now, but we're gonna blend this in and I'm gonna show you the magic. Once you've added the highlights and contours that you've wanted, you could even add blush at this stage. I am gonna hold off to do that until after I blend this out. But once you have the desired effect, you can go ahead and blend out this underpainting. The key is you don't wanna blend it out too much. You really don't have to be too precise with your blending. I'm using my Refi dual-ended brush to blend out all of that contour. I really love this blush for blending out cream products. I'm gonna link it down below. But the key really is here to keep the intensity of the color where you applied it. You really just wanna soften the edges at this point. You don't actually need to blend as much as you normally would because we're going in with foundation on top. Another nice part about underpainting is that you don't have to worry about disturbing your foundation underneath. You can just blend away and not worry about it. And then to blend that highlight shade out, I'm using my Rare Beauty concealer brush. I will also link this one down below. Again, keeping the color kind of where we placed it, just pressing it into the skin to soften those edges a little bit. Again, this doesn't have to be perfect, so don't stress out too much at this phase. But so far, these are blending so nicely into the skin. They are buttery, easy to work with. They didn't set down too quickly, which is exactly what you want when you're underpainting. You want a bit of wiggle room to be able to play with the shades and maneuver them around. Okay, so obviously you can see I haven't fully blended everything in seamlessly. You can still kind of see a little bit of harsh edges, but that's okay. I do just want to go in with a little bit of blush before I move on to the foundation overlay. So I'm going to go ahead with my Westman Atelier Baby Cheeks blush stick in the shade Petal. And I'm just going to go ahead and apply that right on the apples of my cheeks. Just like that. I hope Mary Phillips comes out with blushes. I would love that. I'm just gonna lightly blend that in. While I'm doing that, you guys, I just want to mention I am wearing colored contact lenses. I know a lot of you are always asking because I like to wear them in videos. I just think it's kind of fun. I'm gonna link the exact shade that I'm wearing and the brand below because these are so natural. These are like a pretty natural green color and they're so comfortable. Like I've tried a lot of colored contact lenses and you can just like feel them on your eyes all day long and it's kind of terrible, but these are really comfy. So I'll link them down below. Okay, so this is what we're working with before we apply our foundation on top. I decided to use a more sheer foundation because I want more of a natural look today. I'm using the PatMcGrath Major Skin Hydrolux Luminous Skin Perfecting Foundation. This is another makeup artist product. This gives a beautiful finish. It's not too heavy, gives the skin kind of like a glowy satin finish. It's not gonna fully cover up everything we've done. It's gonna let this kind of show through a little bit. I do recommend going in with something that's a little bit lighter in coverage that you can build up, because if you go into something too intense, high coverage, maybe like a thick matte finish, you might actually just erase everything you've done underneath. So if you're gonna use a more heavy coverage foundation on top, just make sure you use it sparingly or use a skin tint or a light coverage foundation. That is my recommendation for you. I'm just gonna put a pump of that on the back of my hand. And I'm actually gonna be blending this with an Hourglass blush brush. I like this one because the bristles aren't super densely packed, so it allows me to kind of just swirl the brush on top without removing too much of what we applied underneath. So I recommend using more of a fluffy brush for this step if you can. I'm just swirling that brush in the foundation just to coat the brush evenly. And then I'm gonna begin tapping that in on top of everything we've applied, just applying a very, very thin layer at first. I can build up later, but it's really hard to take away once you've applied too much. You can see that I'm more so stamping it on top instead of dragging this brush too much. That is intentional. If you drag, you're more likely to disrupt all of that work we put in underneath. And you can hardly see that I'm applying foundation because I have so little on my brush. This is exactly what you want. You don't want to swipe the foundation on your face. You just want to very, very lightly tap this into the skin, grabbing more as you go. Really, honestly, less is more. All right, so I think I've achieved the desired effect that I want. I actually ended up using a lot less foundation than I normally would, which is kind of the point of this technique, honestly. I used about half as much as I normally would, but as you can see, going in on top of all that we laid down initially, it really softened everything up and it leaves the skin looking so, so natural. You really can't tell that I'm wearing as much makeup as I am in person. The skin looks very light, not cakey at all. I think I got good coverage from those products from Mary Phillips. I do see my little blemish showing through a little bit, but honestly, I think that's my bad. I actually would have powdered after I applied that m.ph highlight shade on top of it, so I would actually recommend doing that. I kind of explained my technique for covering blemishes in one of my most recent videos, 10 hacks to make your base amazing, so I'll put that on the screen. But overall, I'm very, very happy with how this base is looking. I think I'm gonna go ahead and just top it off with my regular powdering routine, so I'll take you along with me for that. And then I'll give you my final thoughts on this m.ph Underpainting Face Palette. I'm going in with the Maybelline Loose Finishing Fit Me powder in the shade 05 Claire. I'm gonna set my under eyes with that, as well as anywhere I get oily. So for me, that's kind of around my mouth and my forehead. I'm also gonna apply a little bit of powder on my nose. I always like to top off my skin with a little bit of extra powder blush, so I'm going in with one of my favorites at the moment. This is the Revela Endless Diffusion Everyday Baked Blush in the shade Paradise. And I'm just using my favorite blush brush, my Revela 04 brush, and tapping that on my cheeks for a little bit of extra color. So with my powders, this is the finished effect. As you can see, it's very natural. My skin doesn't look too heavy. I still have little bits of my skin showing through, which is actually intentional, but you could totally apply more product and make this more glamorous, more heavy, so more so like event, wedding, red carpet type of deal. In terms of the palette, the shade actually worked really well for me. So if you are fair like me, light skin tone, you could totally use this palette. I think I could actually use all of the shades. This one's a little bit darker, so if I have a bit of a tan or I don't want something as brightening, I could use that one. The color corrector as well is a nice shade. I just don't usually reach for a color corrector, so I probably am not going to use that too often, but I do really like all the shades in here. In terms of the formula, I was actually very impressed with how this applied on the face. I was a little bit worried it would set down and I would have a hard time blending it later, but I didn't have that issue at all. These are decently pigmented, not too much that they're difficult to work with, but definitely not too little that they hardly show up on the skin. I actually really liked the highlight as a concealer. It doesn't give too heavy of a look and it didn't sink into my fine lines, which I appreciate. They were very, very easy to blend, very forgiving to work with, so I do think if you're a beginner, you could even use these products. These would obviously be great if you are a makeup artist and you need to have multiple shades in your kit. Mary is a makeup artist, so she obviously kept us makeup artists in mind when designing her own product. I also quite like this brush. I really like the size of this end here. This is really nice for applying cream products and even blending them out. This concealer side is good too. I mean, honestly, I'm more of a fan of this side. This is just kind of like a basic concealer brush, but it's nice that they're together on one brush and you can use them together conveniently as a little duo. This is just my first impression. I'm obviously going to keep playing with this product, but my first impression is really, really good. Mary did not let me down. I didn't really doubt her for 1 second. She's just so good with the makeup. Honestly, yeah, definitely one of my favorite makeup artists of all time. So I'm very happy her product matches up with my sort of expectation that I had for it. If you like when I teach you makeup techniques, make sure you give this video a thumbs up so that I know you want to see more videos like this. And if you haven't subscribed, please do so. It only takes a couple seconds and it helps me out so much. Also, if you guys want perfected skin with no foundation used, check out my last video. It is my very natural, no foundation, perfect skin routine. And that is it, you guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.